Oh, and then we're going to stop for Q&A, maybe, right?
Yeah, we will stop the recording for Q&A. So as you've all just seen on your screens, we are recording this session. And as Dean Yokomori said, we will stop the recording during your questions and answer phase so that you can ask things hopefully more freely. You're also welcome to put something in the chat if you'd like, and I can ask it for you without revealing who you are. That's no problem as well. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight. This is our 6th in the series of faculty development seminars hosted by Deans Cummings and Perek. And tonight we have our Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Kyoko Yokomori, presenting on how to complete your AP-10 form. So we'll get right to it, and then feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat, and we can answer questions as we go along, or we'll save time at the end. So once again, thank you, and go ahead, Kyoko.
Okay, thank you. And I already froze. What's okay? Okay, so this is part of the ongoing faculty development series, and Dr. Abbott, I'm not sure if he's here, but and also I would like to thank the Dean's analyst who really have a deep knowledge in this area, and I couldn't have assembled this presentation without their input, and then hopefully some of you are here today to help us answer any questions that relate to the topic today. And so I just wanted to bring up the deadlines. So if you're going for promotions, normal or accelerated, November 1st is the deadline for file submission. And October 3rd is a deadline for most of the files, including MCA, 5th year review, and advancement to professor step 6. And also normal merits. And then only for the above scale and dean delegated, they are December 1st. But the important thing is that the end date for the review period to include any information is a September 30th. So anything that happened before that date this year can go into the form, but not after. And so I'm going to come back to this one more time. So I just wanted to really bring up the point that the accurate file AP-10 and it's really important for smooth review of your files and proper recognition of what you've done. And so it's really somewhat tedious to fill out this form, but it's worth taking some time to fill out this form and then write personal statements so that the review will go smoothly. And if there's a mistake, the file gets returned to the department, or worse, sometimes file gets returned from CAP all the way to school to the department. These things just takes long time and then just delay your review. So in your dossier, you're going to have this AP-10 form that's the main topic of today's session, and the official name is AP-10 Addendum. But in addition, you have to provide 2 evidence for teaching, for the teaching evaluations, proper evaluation teaching. So that includes the teaching evaluations from the students, mentees, and also the reflective teaching statement. So these 2 needs to be attached to the AP-10. And in addition, you're going to have a CV, which covers the entire career. And so if there's anything that you want to mention that's outside of the review period, the information should be in this CV that CAP can look at. And today, later, I'd like to talk a little bit about the other personal statements. So I'll come back to this. So the AP-10 form header should be look like this. So if it's not like this, then you're using the wrong form. So please try to use the right one, which can be downloaded from this link. And it is a faculty member's responsibility to fill out this form. And you don't want to just give CV and a blank AP-10 form to the department analyst and ask the person to fill out this form, because it really doesn't work. And so it is really the faculty member's responsibility to fill out this form by yourself. And the analyst could help you with the accuracy of the employment history or the review periods, that kind of a minimum administrative things. So AP-10 form can be divided into these 5 sections. First one is employment history, teaching, mentoring, And creative activities, this is a research and funding and a clinical trial. And then the section 4 and 5 are service. So section 4 is a professional service activity as well as professional recognition. And for those of you who have clinical duties, demonstrating the providing the evidence for clinical competence should be included in this section. And then section 5 is specifically for university services. So the evaluation criteria, basically there are 3 pillars. One is a teaching mentoring, which is in section 2, and then creative activities, which is basically section 3. And both professional and the university service, section 4 and 5, combined as one category of service. So you're going to be evaluated by your accomplishments in these 3 areas. And I should note that the adjunct series only require 2 out of 3 activities. So this is something that you want to communicate with the department chair and to clarify which 2 areas that you should be focusing on. So at the top of this AP-10 addendum, this is where you're going to write put it in the date for the review period. It's always start from October 1st and end with September 30th. So if you're submitting files this year, should be September 30th, 2022. And unfortunately, this Word file of AP-10, these 5 sections are like different sections. So you have to put these dates 5 times. It doesn't automatically fill the entire form. So it's a little bit tedious. And make sure that the dates are correct in all 5 sections. And then again, the material listed should be within this review period. And all the informations that need to be reviewed should be included in this AP-10 form. Okay, and then the newest form was out July last year. So the newest form should say 0721 at the bottom. And this form is nice because if you move mouse over this blue letter with the underline, then there's a pop-up kind of explanation, a more detailed explanation of each section. So it's kind of useful. So please download the new form from this link. And so there's some chat. Is it something, Brian, we need to address, or should we wait till the end?
We'll get it at the end.
Okay, I'll just okay. So go right into the form. So the section 1 is the employment history, and so in general, throughout these forms, each section always the newest things at the top, and then chronologically go towards the older one. And of course, if you already put it in opposite direction, it's not the end of the world, and it's okay. But in general, the recommended order is the newest at the top. Okay, and then for the employment history, you need to actually break it down to each steps. And the departmental analyst should be able to help you with the exact dates. Okay. And then also, if you used to be a different series, like you are a researcher and then become faculty member, that should be listed in section B. And also, if you have if you had academic employment in other institutions, that can also be included in here. Can somebody? Okay. Okay, and then so go into the section 2. So section 2 is a teaching and mentoring. And so it doesn't say, but this is actually section 2A. And this is where you want to list all the courses. So if you have course numbers for any activity, teaching activities you've done, list them all. So those include Bio 199, the undergraduate research, because it has this course number, so you can list it here. And make sure that you're going to provide all the information that are asked at the top. So the quarter and year, course number and title, and the number of enrollment, the student number and the instructors and percentage breakdown. I would put it here. So for example, if your course was taught by 4 instructors, then your percentage contribution should be 25%. And then and then again, it's a chronological order, newest at the top, and then oldest at the bottom. But if you already started going the opposite direction, it's still okay. And a couple of things I want to bring up. So you should put the asterisks next to this course number for those that you are attaching a teaching evaluation. And also, you should underline the course that are regularly offered, like every year or every other year. So you can just put the underline. And also the teaching evaluations, I might say it again, but you just need the last 5 years. So for regular merit, it's usually 2 to 3 years, so it doesn't matter. But for the promotion and advancement, that covers, longer than 5 years. All the teaching evaluation you need is just the most recent 5 years.
Kyoko, can I ask a quick question? This is John
Yeah.
Lee.
Yeah.
Do you want just a summary of the teaching evals or the actual evals?
Yeah, so you need to provide the raw teaching evaluations, not the summary.
Oh, got it. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
send them all. Thank you.
Okay, and then sections 2B and C, this is for clinical teaching. And so even though this say clinical faculty only, but anyone who participate in clinical teachings, they should put the information in here. So the B is for medical students, and then C is for residents and fellows. And basically, the way you fill out is same. You put it in like ground rounds and this clinical and the surgery, clinical teachings. You're gonna put the number of students or the mentees, and then the dates, and then hours per days. And for the residents and fellows, it's the long period. So this is okay. But for the medical students, it's actually a rotation. So sometimes some people put like the year and then put 4 or 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. But actually you need to break it down to individual rotation period and then put down the exact number of students and then do that. So it's a little bit tedious, but hopefully you can do this. People are doing this, so try to be accurate as possible. And then also you can include the lectures, special lectures. And one thing is that if you give the same lecture to both medical students and residents and fellows, then you don't want to copy paste the exact same list twice in B and C. Just put it in one place once. Like for example, if you put it here, and then underneath you can always write some sentences explaining, hey, this lectures was given to both medical students and residents and fellows. You can always write some explanation, short sentence explanation to elaborate your exact contributions. And the CAP actually appreciate that because they want to really understand the context.
Oh, Kyoko?
Yeah.
Can you clarify about breaking down your teaching by rotation?
So Namisha, would you like to?
Sure, I can do that. So many times when we, like as a clinician, you may be on service for 2 weeks at a time. You want to put your exact 2 week block, the number of hours you spent teaching, and how many days a week that were. And then you can put all the different, like in an academic year, each time that you were on service.
Right. Instead of just saying from this year to this year, I did 4 or 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, which is not completely accurate, right?
Now, just to add context there, CAP, it's the kind of thing that CAP doesn't understand what we mean. So the clearer you can make it, the better they can evaluate what your contributions have been.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then another thing was that you don't want to list the names of students, residents, fellows here, okay? And you just put the number of the students or mentees, and right, and then I already went over this, okay? Okay,
Hold
and
on. No,
yeah.
we have a hand up.
Yeah.
Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, I think I'm unmuted. Question I had was, for example, we're on 15 days a month. And you spend, while you do consults, you spend some time teaching. But I don't know how to document, 1 hour on this day or that day or consult day. I don't know how to itemize that.
So in that sense, well, Nimisha, maybe you could answer.
Yeah, so probably the best is to put it as an average. And so you think about how when you're on consult service, you do X amount of teaching, rounding, and you can kind of break it up. And so as you see on this example, it says, or on the previous example, she had surgical wards, She put the dates 4 to 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, the number of days. So it does use
Oh,
it as
okay.
an average.
Okay.
Also,
Bye.
hello. Okay. Also, you can always explain a little bit the context, right? In a sentence, and that's okay too. All right. Oops. Okay. So then going to the section 2D. So this is for those of you who have access to graduate students. So this is about the PhD students. And so if any of the students graduated within the review period, then you can list their name and stipulate you were chair or you were committee member. And then if anyone advanced to candidacy, list here. And if you are on the pre-advancement, pre-dissertation committee. So after advancement, oftentimes students have annual committee meetings. So if you are participating in that, you can list it here. And other research supervision, you can also put prelim. If you are participated as a prelim committee, then you can list it here. And so you can imagine that you might be listing same students multiple times here, and which is fine. The only thing is that you want to make sure that the dissertation happened within the review period. Okay, so that's really important. And so the section 2D2 this is for master students, postdocs, and again, you're gonna write your role. And then also, even if you don't have access to graduate students, you can take undergraduate students. So you can list undergraduate students who you supervised. And here it's kind of important if you help them get the Europe Award, the research award, or if they got excellence in research, you should put it here because that's evidence for good mentoring. So CAP is really using this as evidence of your teaching accomplishments. So you should put this so they can understand how you're not just taking students, but you're actually really doing a good mentoring. And then also visiting scholars, international students, or some visiting assistant professor, you can list them and just briefly explain, indicate what kind of supervision that entailed. You can explain that here. And also here you can also list residents and fellows who you mentor, both either for research or for clinical teaching. So here you can actually put list their names. Okay, and then continue on. So this is the last part of the section 2. So if you want some teaching awards, that's a great evidence for good teaching. So you should put it here. And if you also involved in some extra activities like serving as a poster judge for undergraduate research symposium, or if you participate in high school student summer program, you can put it here. Oh, and then this is a good example. If you hover your mouse to this teaching innovations, there's this additional things pops up. And this is where you can really advertise what kind of new things that you try during the review period. And if you started organize a new course, or even if you revamp the existing course to make it better, you should definitely discuss it here. Okay. And if you have any evidence that you included in your file, then you can put asterisks, and then so the CAP will know that you provided extra information on this. And then the last part is, so each section has a diversity section. So in this case, what did you do in terms of the increasing diversity related to teaching? And so I'll come back to this a little bit later in more details. Oh, then one thing I wanted to caution you is that please do not list the name of minority students here, no names. You can put numbers if you like, but no names, please. Okay. And then this is overall for the clinical teaching, it's important to describe, the nature of teaching activities. And so if this listing of period and, that kind of stuff doesn't explain enough, you should definitely elaborate this in your reflective teaching statement, or put it in the teaching innovation sections if you did something new. And it's really critical to get the evaluation from the students and residents. And if there are not enough number of students who can provide evaluations, you could also solicit letters or solicit letter from your peers who can kind of describe the observation and how you are teaching. So that's okay too. But you need to have some kind of evaluations as one of the two required evidence for teaching. Okay. And so this Nimisha already explained. So I'm going to go on. Okay, so now we're going to the section 3, which is research and scholarly activity or creative activities. And again and again, I will mention that what CAP is looking for in this AP-10 is the context, right? That's beyond what's listing. And so, for example, I'll come back to this a little bit more, but if you are co-author, middle author of team research papers, then it's very important that you're going to stipulate exactly what is your contribution, why your contribution is significant for that study. So that kind of thing is really important for the CAP to properly, assess your contribution in a study. And so the section 3, you can see A is the publications not credited in a prior review. So this is where you typically put all the new publication information since the last review, which is typically 2 to 3 years. And then only those who are going up a promotion or advancement to step 6, they have this longer period of review time. So then they can put the any publications before the last review into during the review period into this section, publication previously submitted in a prior review. But typically for regular merit, you're going to just leave this section blank. And completed parts of larger works. This means like if you have multi-year work and that would not be published until later, but the completed portion can be evaluated now, you can put it in. But honestly, most of the people leave these sections blank. Okay, and then here's actual examples for this publication listing. And so first of all, make sure that they are published during the review period. Please don't put anything outside of the review period. However, if your publication was accepted before September 30th of this year, then you can list it and you need to attach like email copy of the publisher saying your article was accepted. So if you put that in, then you can list it here. And also it's important that you need to stipulate if the article publications are peer reviewed or not. So you can put subsection like journal articles, peer reviewed, or invited review, peer reviewed, case report, peer reviewed, or maybe you have some commentary or reviews that are not peer reviewed, then you want to say not peer reviewed. And or if you want to put bioarchive paper you just submitted, you can also list them, but just say not peer reviewed, and that's fine. And another thing was that it's really helpful for the reviewers, especially if you do basic research, if you separate and clearly mark original research article versus the review articles. And we are told to number them separately, but if you already started with the same number, put it in the same list, that's fine. But just put the star mark or asterisk or something to make it clear that which one is a research and which one is a review articles. That really helped the review process. Okay, and I would typically bold my own name, so then it's much easier for reviewer to find your name. And again, it should be chronological order, newest at the top. And this numbering cannot be changed, and it should be complete match with your CV. Okay, and so if you are just joining UCI and then you put the newest article as number 1, then unfortunately you need to reorganize it. And so the oldest article is number 1 and newest article is the big number. So every year you can add new articles with the newer numbers and you never need to touch the old one. And so sometimes CAP will cross-reference and validate old articles. So once the number is assigned to one article, that should not be changed. Okay, so this is the way you want to arrange and make sure that the numbers match with those in the CV. Okay, so that's a really important rule.
Sorry, quick question, Kyoko.
Yeah.
Is there any requirement that the journal has to be in PubMed, or?
No, not
So basically just
necessarily.
any open access throwaway put in there?
Yeah, and as long as they are peer reviewed, I think it's fine.
How
Brian,
about these,
yeah.
so many of these open access things, you just pay a fee and you publish? I mean, they're supposedly peer reviewed, but most of those things you pay a fee, right?
Well, you pay a fee for
All of them.
almost everything we publish. So really what CAP wants to know is, was it peer reviewed? List that in one section.
Yeah,
And if it was not peer reviewed, if you didn't get reviews back and have to respond to criticisms,
yeah.
you still list those, but you got to list those in a separate identifier.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I mean,
ARAC and CAP are sophisticated enough to be able to evaluate the journals in most cases.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I
Jeff.
mean, there's so many journals now. I mean, it's hard to really, you
So
know,
I have
even
a-
within the field. But anyways, okay, thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How to do this numbering things in Word? And should I do it manually? Because in the Word, we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from top to the bottom. But how to do this in the reverse order in Word?
Unfortunately, that will be manual.
Oh, I see. Because I tried a lot. I couldn't find a way to do it automatically.
And you have ton of publications, so I hear you. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
that you just copy paste, because numbers should be exactly the same. So it might be safer to copy paste directly from your CV, so you
I
know for
see.
sure the number is same.
Because my CV is from 1 to 200.
Yeah.
In the order.
Right.
I need to reverse everything manually.
Wait. So in your CV, the newest one is number 1, or newest?
Yes, in my CV, newest one, number 1.
Oh
No
my
problem.
God.
Yeah. Okay, never mind. I know
Jeff,
this.
do you have
I can
any
do
good
manually.
suggestion? Because it might be too late to change numbers, right?
I don't know. I guess most of senior faculty UCL recruited would have the newest paper as number 1 on their CV.
Not necessarily, but
Oh, I see.
Jeff, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I think that's kind
If
of
the
rare.
newest paper's number 1, you have to change the numbers every time, don't you? If
That's
actually-
true. I like the current way of doing that, but I just don't find a good way to do it in Word in an automatic way.
Yeah, I just did mine manually, but you know,
I
just
don't think there is a way.
Another
make yourself
solution
a nice big pot of tea and just sit down and do it. That's
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, none of our paper, when we move from other places, the papers aren't numbered anyway, right? And then
Right.
it's,
So I think sooner you do it, the better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can put them into Excel and then order by the number.
No, I tried.
And then populate Word afterwards, maybe that might be possible.
No, another way to do it is to put the newest paper to the bottom of your paper list. But I like the newest one in the top. So I like the current setting, but just don't know a good way to do it.
Yeah, I think this one, because CAP wants to go back sometimes. So
Yeah, I
they
agree.
really- yeah, I'm
I agree.
sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
NH moved to more recent at the top as well, right?
I
In the
see.
bio sketch. So it kind of ties in with that.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then another thing I wanted to mention was that, like I was saying, if you're involved in team research and if you're a middle author, then it's very important you're going to explain the context. So as you can see in this example, that you can write a few lines explaining your contributions, and especially you want to clarify if you are the corresponding author, senior author, you should mention that. And then even if you're a middle author, you have this bringing a significant expertise, that expertise is significant for the paper, you should really speak up and explain that. And you should definitely do that. And that's what CAP is expecting. And sometimes you put percentage and that's not required, but you can still put it in. But I think CAP appreciate that you explaining the context of your contribution, appreciate better than like number, percentage things.
I see. So the percentage contribution is not required.
Not required. I mean, you can still put in because that gives a general impression. So it's not bad, but
Last time I put in my first AP-10, the analyst asked me to put a contribution on every paper I listed on AP-10.
I think you can, if you started doing that, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not, yeah.
Okay.
All right, and then so that's sort of summarizing here, and then so especially your junior faculty members, you really want to demonstrate that you are establishing independent research programs. So you can have co-author papers, but you want to have a good number of first or senior author papers, and that's something that's really important. And if you're middle, then you want to really define your contribution. And then also for the HS clinical X and adjunct faculty members, having research papers are not always required for your position. And so it's completely fine to publish case reports, review articles, developing teaching materials, and also clinical trials. These are really important creative activities that you can list here, okay? And then for the publications, if you publish paper in like high impact factor journals like Cell, Nature, Science, you can, definitely mention the impact factor, right? That really suggests that your paper is really considered significant. That's why you're able to publish in these journals. And also, if you're publishing a journal that's solid, specialized journal that's well respected, but the impact factor is not that high because the field is kind of small, which is fine. Then you can, for example, use like relative citation ratio, something that addresses the influence of your individual paper, because impact factor is for journal and not for your paper. But this kind of matrix address the impact of your articles. You can use something like that too. And then also in the departmental letter, sometimes they mention about H index. This is a matrix for your impact as an author, right? As a scientist. So none of those are required, but if they can be used to highlight your accomplishment, by all means, take advantage of those. In other words, if your impact factor, a journal impact factor is not that high, you are not forced to list that. You can use this only if that has a positive way of highlighting what you accomplished. You know what I mean? So I think these are just the tools to really put in a context to explain or highlight the impact of your science and you as a scientist. And then the latter half of the section 3 is the extramural funding, and then also the clinical research, clinical trials. And one thing I wanted to mention was that some clinical faculty members sometimes list this IRB approval, which is not necessarily funded or come with the clinical trial yet. And I know this is a lot of work, but please don't list those in this section 3, but you can list this in your creative activity statement, and you should. And because it's a lot of work, and then you should put it in there, but not in the section 3. And so the section 3 here, okay, so if you have some professional online resource, like you put up a video or something, you can list here. If you have a patent, you can put it in here. And then this is the funding sections. And as you can see, if it's previously submitted, then you say yes. And this is a new grants that you got after your previous last review, then you should put no. And a funding source, funding number or title. And then important that you show what is your role. So in order to show the independence, you have a leadership on the project, it's nice to show that you're a PI or MPI. You can have a bunch of grants with the co-investigators, which is okay, but it always nice to have some extramural funding with you as a principal investigator. And if you're a co-investigator, then you want to stipulate the percentage effort. And the amount you can put either direct or total. You can stipulate that by D or T. And then the award period. And some people put the same grant for each year separately. Please don't do that. Just same grant under the same grant number. You can just put it like this and then put the range of the span of the award like this, okay? And again, the newest one at the top and the chronological order, right? And so that's that. And then also, if you have a clinical trial, you can also list it here with the funding source, a funding company. And then if you are it's a PI initiated clinical trial, if you're a site PI, these are great. And so you should really pay attention to this, and, just listing a bunch of clinical trial with you as just one of the investigator, it's better to have something with the, PI initiated or a site PI. So that means a little bit more significant, okay? Okay, and then again, there's a diversity section for the research and creative activities. And if you, for example, helped the minority students to publish paper, you can write that. And then also, if your project actually focus on the health disparity and then directly address, this minority underserved community issues, that's great. You should mention that here. Okay, so then section 4 is this is a professional recognition and service activity. And also for those of you who have clinical duties, this is a section where you're also going to provide some evidence for clinical competence. So these can be the obtaining the best doctor award or board certifications, good. And also in the university service section, you can of course put some leadership role in the division clinical program. So clinical competence can be the evidence can be provided in this section or the next section. So here's some examples. So section 4A, honors and awards. So if you are selected as the best doctors in Orange County or USA, by all means put it in, because that's an easy evidence to demonstrate clinical excellence. And also if you are elected as a fellow for professional societies, so that's prestigious and you should list that as well. And any service awards you obtained, you should list here. And also you're expected to be part of the professional society, so memberships you can list. And section C is really the place where you can demonstrate that peers really recognize your research, and so they invite you to give seminars. And so the first section, this is an invitation to the different universities, and then the second part here is invitation to give talks at professional meetings. So put those in, and having these really is a good evidence of your national and international recognition. And for regular meeting, professional meeting, where you submit abstracts and then get accepted to give talks or provide abstracts, those are not going here, but going to this section, accepted presentation at professional meetings. Okay, and so please do not mix them up, and then just keep it separate. And then if you are invited to give comments or asked to do interviews, you can put it here. You do not go into the details of the content, but just provide dates and then who, just short description of who invited you to do this. Also, if your research articles were highlighted in some commentary or review articles, then you can list it here. And then professional and public services. So from then on is your professional services. And so if you're asked to serve on to chair some professional meetings, then you should put it here. Or if you are actually a member of committee for the professional societies, you should list it here. And you can mention a little bit about what entails, how much work going to this. You can briefly explain this. And then also if you are on the editorial board, that's also good evidence for the peer recognition, so you should list. And many of you probably serve as a reviewer for journals, so you can put it here. And then if you are also serving as a reviewers for grants, especially if you are asked to be on as a standing member for study section for NIH, that's really a good evidence for national recognition. So you should definitely list, and even ad hoc review, you can put it here. And these things, I strongly suggest that as soon as you get invited to do this, you just jot it down on your CV, because after 2 years or 3 years, try to come back and remember, okay, when did I do this study section? It's really hard. So I would record this as you go. All right. And then if you are serving as a consultant for companies, you can list here and then specify if you're paid or pro bono. And also community service is also very important. So if you give special lectures to the community, something you help with the outreach program, you should definitely list it here. And then again, there's this diversity activity related to professional service here. So the example would be, for example, if you're actually serving on the Minority Affairs Committee for Professional Society, then you can certainly list this, that type of activity can be listed here. So that was the professional activity. So the last is the university service. And so there are different levels. There's the UC-wide, campus-wide, school and hospital, and then your department division, right? And then if you're a junior faculty, you really are not required to do too much service. Maybe you can, serve on the faculty search committee for the department or something like that, because your priority is to establish your independent research or creative activity program, right? And so please do not get bogged down by being asked and then just keep saying yes to this. But then once you get tenured, then you start serving all these committees. So during associate professorship, you want to pave the way, serving on different committees. So then by the time you become a professor, you can start chairing some of these committees to kind of demonstrate your leadership, which is really expected for senior faculty members, because the University of California, the shared governance is their important policy. And so this is actually a slide from AP and CAP. And you can see that they're really looking at the context. CAP wants to see the level of leadership, effort, and the main contribution, and not really obvious from just the list. They want to see a little bit more description. So you can elaborate this on your service statement. Okay. And then again, they also say higher level service are required for higher steps. All right. And so the examples of a university service for HS faculty members. So university, it's a cross UC system. So if you serve on something with the UCOP, and then these are considered the UC-wide. And then campus-wide, if you're not Senate, you're not going to serve on campus-wide committee, but you can still maybe involve in some administrative role in the collaborative work together with other schools, right? School of Nursing or engineering, then that would be considered campus-wide, so you can list here. And your hospital committee activity should be listed under School of Medicine, not campus-wide, but under School of Medicine. And, if you're involved in interviewing medical students, these things should be listed here. And then, of course, your effort in a division and department, these things should be listed under here. And I understand that, clinical faculty members, especially, are really busy. And I know you're doing a lot of work, but sometimes, you don't put these things in your, section 5. So I strongly suggest that you have to take a little bit of time, try to break down your activity, and then just put it in here. So your effort will be properly recognized and evaluated. Okay, so this is like some examples. So you see what actually, if you serve as a reviewer for this cancer seed grants, that's UC-wide, so that can be listed here. And then this campus-wide committees for Senate faculty members. And then a school, there's a School of Medicine committees that you can participate. And then again, the medical center related activities can be also listed here. And then the department, if you are serving as division chief or, some graduate advisor or on the search committee, these things should be all going here. And again, there's a diversity activity section 4, section 5. And this is a diversity activity related to university service, right? So for example, if you are working on a mentoring committee and then provided special effort to support this diversity faculty members career development, that's something worth talking about. And so let's go into the diversity. So the CAP actually really put emphasis on diversity. So the 3 pillars of evaluation is still teaching, research, and service, but the diversity is another important component, and they really appreciate your effort. But when you first hired, you are required to write this inclusive excellence statement, but you're not required to give that after that. It's not required. And in fact, CAP actually prefer this information to be divided into appropriate section, in a section 5 sections, and then explain in each section. But if you have a significant diversity, inclusive excellence activity that you really want to highlight, by all means, you can make a personal statement. And this kind of contribution should also be highlighted in a department letter. And so this is just a kind of example. So, if you happen to supervise some students who happen to be URM or female students, I mean, you can at least record that, right? This is a sort of diversity statement for the teaching section, right? But this is a so-so. It's still better than not writing it. But for example, if you show you actually have special effort to help these URM students to advance, then you can write about that, and that's really good. But the excellent example would be, for example, you made sure that this opportunity of this working in my lab is properly advertised in the venues that are specifically targeted to the URM female students, and then list those, something that it showed the evidence that you have made a specific effort to promote these people to come to your lab. Then that's something like really good. Consider excellent the activity. Okay, so I'm sorry about the background. Okay, so then, so that was the end of the AP-10. And at the end, I just want to quickly talk about the personal statements. And so I know this is extra work, and then I realize that some people just never submit this, but I'd like to emphasize that this is very important, and it's worth the effort to attach this personal statements as a complementary information to your AP-10, because CAP is really looking for the information about context. And so your letter, you're the best person to explain the context. So your letter is really something that CAP is really looking for. And the reflective teaching statement, of course, is required as one of the two teaching evidence, but even the research and service statement, it is worth making. And they don't want to see long statements. So 1 page is better than 2 pages. And I would definitely not go over 2 pages. And the research statement, I sometimes see people going to the details of research, but remember, most of the CAP members are from other non-science schools, so they're not going to understand this. But rather, what you want to explain is explain the context, explain the significance of your study in the field, and define your contribution in team science, and then to explain to the lay audience, okay? And so that's what you want to do. And also here, you want to describe any unfunded clinical research or IRB protocols, the effort you did, okay? And then the service statement, again, you want to briefly summarize your service and then really elaborate some of the service activity, like maybe some committee, you really spend a lot of time and effort into it. You should really explain that in a service statement. And yeah, that's that. Okay. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things about external letters. By this time, department should have already invited letter writers. So those are required for the promotions and professor to above scale, going up above scale. And you need 4 to 5 external letters, and at least 3 letters must be department nominated and non-conflicted. And I'd like to really emphasize that 1 or 2 of them should be from other UC campuses, because they're not going to appreciate like adjunct and clinical X, or the different series, and also they may not understand this above scale. And so these people in other universities, but the other UC campuses, they do. So it's really effective to have letters from other UC campuses saying that if the person is in my campus, he should definitely qualify to be this. That's a really powerful statement. And so make sure of that. But you don't want to fill up these 3 non-conflicted letter slots with all UCs. You want to have some balanced view from outside university as well. And in terms of the conflicted, so your mentors are conflicted forever, but your collaborators, if the publications with the person is more than 4 years ago, then they can be now considered non-conflicted. So you can use them as a non-conflicted. And also, you and the department should come up with a 2 separate lists of potential letter writers. And I think this is a relatively new rule, but if there are overlap of the same names, now those are considered to be department nominated non-conflicted. Because before we worried that if there's overlap, that's a problem. But now you don't need to worry about that. If there are overlapping names between your list and department list, that's going to become departmental non-conflicted. So that's good. All right. And another thing I want to mention was that please make sure that the letter writer's rank is the rank where you are higher than the rank that you're going to be promoted to. So for example, if you are becoming trying to get promoted to a professor, then please don't ask letters from associate professors. Okay, make sure that letters are from professors. So that's another important point. And so that's same thing, basically saying in CAP's comments. I just want to point out this one last thing. So if this is your second promotions, please do not use the same letter writers from your first promotion. So if the person write letter for your assistant to associate promotion, don't ask them to write another letter from associate to full professor. Please find somebody else. So that's that. Okay, and then department chair, dean's letters. So shorter is often better. And it should be really analytical. Instead of saying, oh, this person did a lot of service work, you should say this person did, heavier service work than the average in the department, blah, blah, blah. Just kind of put it in a kind of context. And also, it's important to address negative aspects of the file. So if the teaching evaluations say something negative about the teaching, instead of ignoring it, it's important that the department letter and your teaching statement address this, because what CAP is looking for is that how well you're responsive to these statements and try to make improvement. That kind of attitude they're looking for, because there's some negative statements, right? So that's okay, but just make sure that you're not ignoring them. Okay, and another thing I'd like to really emphasize was that if you are going for the acceleration, please make sure the department and chair's letter stipulate which 2 of the 3 areas the person is outstanding that can justify acceleration. So oftentimes, the person publishing great papers and got tons of money, let's go acceleration. But if the person is doing poorly in teaching and do very little service, then that acceleration is not going to be granted. So make sure that the department letter stipulate which 2 areas they identify to be outstanding to justify acceleration. So that makes it so much easier for the reviewers. Okay, so that's that. And then again, as I'd like to reiterate that the people with the clinical duties, there's a 4th category of clinical competence. So that's another category that they will be evaluated. And I just wanted to mention last year, about 17% of all the files went from School of Medicine to CAP, was asking for acceleration, and about half of them got granted. Okay, so that's the end. So these are some of the helpful website. And if you have any questions, now open to any questions.